From the early Middle Ages, the smell of sulphur and smoke, burning wood and metal lay in the air. At night, travellers would tell, the whole valley was lit up. Everything glowed red. The buildings, the wooded slopes, the sky, the water. A roaring, blazing inferno illuminated by the blast furnace. The gorge of the River Severn. Abraham Darby III loved this valley. For generations, the Darby family had made industrial history, refining techniques, discovering how iron could be smelted and processed with greater purity, and thus with greater profit. The breakthrough to smelting with coke instead of charcoal came at the beginning of the 18th century. When Abraham Darby was 13, his father died and he inherited the family business. At the age of 18, he took over the management of the Coalbrookdale Company. 5 years later, in 1773, the architect Thomas Pritchard put to him the idea of building an iron bridge over the River Severn, a plan that immediately appealed to Darby. He had a drawing made of his vision, which gives a clear idea of how new and revolutionary the project was. Until then, ferries had transported people and goods across the river, a risky and uncertain business because flooding in winter and low water in summer meant that the Severn was only reliably navigable for a few months of the year. A bridge would solve this problem. Step by step, the technical basis was laid, which would make construction on such a large scale feasible. At the end of the 18th century, thanks to the Darbys, the Severn Valley led the world in industrial development. Wheels and boilers for large steam engines were cast here, as well as pots and pans for domestic use. For a bridge of this kind, spanning 30 meters, there was no model or precedent. "378 tons of molten iron were required to cast the parts of the bridge, a third of the total annual production. Abraham Darby III had new blast furnaces built. The landscape in the Severn Valley changed its aspect once again. Extensive areas of woodland gave way to smoking, smelting furnaces, and the vision of a 23-year-old who had set himself an ambitious goal. In the middle of England's industrial region, the Black Country, which was actually green, a bridge was to be built, such as the world had not yet seen. The production of the bridge parts began in 1779, 6 years after the first design was made. The 5 semicircular arch ribs, which were to support the bridge, were cast and erected during the summer months. Each of the massive ribs weighed 6 tons. How the parts were transported and put in place is a matter of speculation. There are no records or drawings documenting the building procedures. New Year's Day, 1781, the first cast iron bridge in the world was opened. The men of Coalbrookdale in the Severn Valley had worked on it for 2 years. On the same day, a parliamentary resolution came into effect, declaring the iron bridge to be the private property of Abraham Darby III and making it legal for him to demand payment for crossing it. This applied also to the army and the English crown, until 1950. With the same doggedness and discipline that characterized his realization of the plans for the bridge, young Darby set down every evening what he had spent, keeping scrupulous daily records with the Quaker's sense of responsibility and accountability. These accounts remain the only record we have of the exact progress of the construction of the bridge and the conditions under which it took shape. It's a tale of bills and confirmations of orders, which started with a belief in the potential of molten iron and ended with the realization, from a visionary drawing, of the first outstanding edifice of modern industrial history: the Iron Bridge. Once it was finished, visitors came from all over the world to study the filigree construction in cast iron. English philosophers and theorists, South Sea princes, Italian and Polish aristocrats, Swedish and German engineers, French industrial spies, writers and painters. Some were shocked by the iron nakedness, which 100 years later the Eiffel Tower also evinced. Others were fascinated by the beautiful boldness and elegance of this artwork in iron. With the completion of the bridge, Abraham Darby III had fulfilled a youthful dream. He had also, of course, achieved the aims of the calculating businessman. At 23, he was already fully aware of the publicity value such a spectacular edifice would have for his products and for the Severn Valley. With his iron bridge, he swept aside the prejudices against the achievements of industry and did much, thanks to its reliability and beauty of form, to build up confidence in the new age that was just beginning and which historians would later refer to as the Industrial Revolution. Around the bridge, a town subsequently grew up and took the name which it still bears today: Ironbridge, a vision born of the power of molten iron to which Abraham Darby devoted his life. Faith in the technological potential opened up by this material, in this form, changed the face of the world. Railways, cars, skyscrapers, and any number of iron bridges are the technological children of Abraham Darby's Iron Bridge.